So, this happened about 4 months ago. It's still fresh in my mind. I never thought I'd be part of something like this, but I guess life's full of surprises. Let me explain. It was late one evening when I drove out to this abandoned house on the edge of town. Now I know it sounds odd, but it wasn't my first time going there. A friend of mine, Rick, had told me about it a few weeks before. He said it was creepy, and that people had mentioned hearing strange noises coming from the place at night. Of course, I didn't believe any of it. Just some silly rumors, right? But curiosity got the better of me, so I went to check it out. I pulled up in my old car and parked just outside the broken gates. The house was massive, old, with vines creeping up its walls. The windows were all boarded up, and the front door hung loosely on its hinges. It looked like no one had been here in ages. It was eerily quiet, not even the sound of wind or animals. The whole place gave off a really weird vibe. I stood there for a minute, taking it all in. To be honest, I was nervous but didn't want to back down now. I walked up the steps, the wooden boards creaking under my feet. When I pushed the door open, it made this horrible squealing sound like it hadn't been opened in decades. Inside it was dark, and the smell of mold and decay hit me right away. I pulled out my phone and turned on the flashlight. It was quiet, too quiet. I walked around the dusty old rooms, trying to shake off the uncomfortable feeling crawling up my spine. Then, in one of the back rooms, I noticed something odd, like a faint light flickering through a crack in the wall. I got closer and found a small hidden door. It wasn't locked or anything, just kind of tucked away. I almost didn't open it, but well, I was already here. When I pushed it open, my heart almost stopped. The room behind it was bizarre. It wasn't like the rest of the house. This room was clean, organized, like someone had been living there. There was a mattress in the corner, some books, a small table with a half-eaten meal. But the strangest part, there was a wall covered in old yellowed newspaper clippings, photos and maps. I could see that some of them were about missing people. I couldn't understand it at first, but I felt like something wasn't right. I had no idea who would be living here or why they'd have all this stuff. But just as I was about to leave, I heard something, a noise. At first, I thought it was just the house settling, but then I heard it again, a low thud coming from upstairs. I froze. My mind started racing, but I figured maybe it was just some animals. I tried to brush it off, but I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. I decided to head out, but as I walked back to the front of the house, I saw something that made my blood run cold. There was a figure standing by the doorway of the room I'd just come from. I couldn't make out who it was. My phone's flashlight caught nothing but a shadow. Then, the figure turned and disappeared down the hallway. I immediately ran out of there, my heart pounding in my chest. The next morning, I read something online that made my stomach drop. Apparently, the police had found a body in that house. They didn't release much information, but I knew it was the same house I'd been in. The strange part? The body was never identified. No ID, no clue who it was. The police couldn't explain why no one had noticed the house was being used or how the body had ended up there. Weeks went by, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. But then, it got even stranger. A few friends of mine said they had seen the police investigating the area again, this time looking more closely at the photos and maps in that room. What they found made no sense. The maps were marked with places where bodies had been found, places where people had gone missing. But the most shocking part was the names. Names I recognized, people I knew, all linked to this house. Turns out, that house had been used for something dark. The person living there, well, the one I saw, had been part of something bigger. The police didn't know what to make of it, but the more they investigated, the more they realized it was linked to a series of unsolved disappearances from the last few years. The most unbelievable part, the killer had been using that house as a base, keeping records of every victim, and the truth is still out there, hiding in those walls. I'm not going back.